11th century, the Crusades begin a new wave of anti-Jewish persecution as Christian armies try to reclaim the Holy Land from the Arabs. Fleeing from torture and execution, Jews scatter across Europe and the Middle East, taking their secret traditions into new territories. By the 13th century, the mystical teachings have spread to Jewish communities in what are now Germany, France, and Spain. The term Kabbalah, meaning receiving in Hebrew, now becomes widely used to describe the practice.
We're really talking about a small group of Jewish teachers, rabbis, spiritual people who were gathering the earlier traditions, developing techniques of meditation, and reimagining God in some very startling ways.
One of the most significant events in Kabbalah's history occurs around 1280, when a Spanish rabbi claims to discover yet another mysterious text. This will soon become the single most important book in Kabbalah. It is called the Zohar, meaning radiance or splendor in Hebrew.
It's really the masterpiece of Kabbalah. The ideas of the Zohar are very radical and very startling.
Written mainly in Aramaic, its pages are filled with arcane symbolism and erotic language. By arousal below, there is similarly arousal above. Male and female unite, desire prevails. Worlds are blessed, and above and below are in joy. To this day, the author of the Zohar remains a mystery. Many Kabbalists believe that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai received divine inspiration to write the Zohar while living in a cave during the 2nd century. Others suspect that the manuscript was written 1,000 years later, possibly by a Spanish Kabbalist or even by a group of rabbis.
It's in a way written by someone in Aramaic who didn't really know Aramaic that well. And you also strangely find words in medieval Portuguese and Spanish in the Zohar. So the question scholars have been wrestling with for a couple of hundred years now is, who wrote it and how did it come to be?
But the greatest mystery of the Zohar lies within its mystical text.
You have to work so hard to decipher it, and this is why it's so attractive, because of this beautiful game it plays with you of revealing and hiding.
Decoding these complicated passages promises a greater understanding of God and his relationship with humans.
The Zohar really sees the Bible as a secret code. Every event in the Zohar, every bit of narrative, every biblical law is telling something not only about what happens on earth, but about God's inner being.
Kabbalists believe that if they can successfully decode the Zohar, they will unlock the mysteries of both heaven and earth. One of these secrets is a startling revelation about God's body and sexuality. By the 13th century, Kabbalah had spread throughout Europe and the Middle East. Yet even as the number of Jews studying Kabbalah grew, their secrets remained closely guarded. Ever since, scholars have been searching for ways to unravel these secrets. In Berkeley, California, Daniel Matt works surrounded by these copies of the Zohar, the most revered and mysterious manuscript in Kabbalah. His bookcase is filled with versions and commentaries in Aramaic, Hebrew, English, and French. They come from libraries around the world. He hopes to complete the first English translation of the Zohar based on original Aramaic texts. This ambitious work is the latest attempt to understand a book that has perplexed scholars for over 700 years.
I don't want to ruin the mystery or the strange, cryptic quality of the Zohar, but I'm trying to make it accessible to a contemporary reader.
The Zohar is perhaps the most difficult Jewish text to translate. Most of its roughly 2,000 pages are in Aramaic, an arcane language that may have been used to further complicate the decoding process. On the surface, the Zohar is a novel which follows Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and a group of rabbis on a journey through what is now Israel.
They wander through the hills of Galilee, sharing their secret teachings, sometimes running into strange characters on the road.
Kabbalists believe that the narrative holds clues that can explain hidden meanings in the Torah or Hebrew scriptures. Several examples can be found by re-examining the book of Genesis. Here, the Zohar overturns the traditional account that God expelled Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. The Zohar's interpretation illustrates a revolutionary belief that humans can direct God.
But the Zohar asks a very radical question. It says, who kicked whom out of the garden? And the Zohar actually teaches Adam expelled God from the garden. It's as if we're still in the garden, but we don't realize it because we've expelled God. We've lost touch with the spiritual dimension. And the challenge is to regain some awareness, some intimacy with the divine.
The further Kabbalists delve into the Zohar, the more cryptic the words become.
It has a very rich symbolic system. This is a deliberated means to keep the Zohar for the elite only. The writers probably thought that only those who are spiritual enough will be able to decipher it.
The major symbolic code found in the Zohar is the 10 aspects of God's personality, the 10 Sefirot. One popular interpretation shows these characteristics as a map of God's body. Kabbalists believe that if they can understand God's anatomy, they can learn how his powers work. These ancient drawings reveal that God's body is similar to humans. The top symbolizes God's head, which is the source of will, wisdom, and understanding. Below that are symmetrically arranged organs and limbs, representing love, power, beauty, eternity, and splendor. The most unusual part of the diagram contains sensual imagery. The ninth part of God, called the foundation, is the phallus, or procreative life force of the universe. But according to the Sefirot, God also has female components. The final element, often called Shekinah, was depicted as the feminine half of God. This image challenged the age-old view of a strictly masculine God.
What we find for the first time is that this feminine aspect, the feminine consort of God, is divine and is part of the divinity.
So to unite the male and female halves of God, this becomes the goal of the whole system of the Sefirot. And the Zohar describes that union in very graphic terms. There really is a romance within God and a sexual union, and that's a striking element of the Zohar, probably led to its wide appeal in some ways.